Resourceful Designer, episode 24, The Benefits of a Home-Based Graphic Design Business.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer Podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now, your host. He was once addicted to World of Warcraft, Mark DeCote.
Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you can join me this week. I think it'll be an interesting show as I flip last week's episode, The Dangers of Running a Home-Based Graphic Design Business, on its head, and this week talk about the benefits of a home-based graphic design business. And I want to remind you that anything I talk about in this episode, any links or such, can be found on the show notes page at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 24. Now, I thought I'd give you guys a little update on something. If you remember back in episode 21, when I talked about ending a relationship with your client, I told you a little story about a website I had designed for a client and how he hadn't paid me. The last invoice I sent him was in December of 2014, and I still hadn't received the full payment for it, and how I had finally sent him a letter saying, that's it, I'm cutting all ties. He has to find somebody else to take over his website before it expired, or he loses everything. Well, just this morning, I received the final payment from that client. And to be honest, I didn't expect to. I never expected to receive that payment from him. I thought once I cut all ties, that was it. I was ready to write it off the books. But I got a notification via PayPal. The payment was received in the full amount that he owed. So that was something nice that happened to me today. It doesn't change things. I'm still not going to continue working for this client. And I sent an email back to him thanking him for the payment, but still wondering what he wants to do because in just a couple of weeks, his domain name will expire. And I've already told him that I will not be renewing it and I will not be renewing hosting for his website. And I'm just waiting for him to tell me whether he wants to transfer it somewhere else or if he just wants to let it expire. He did send a note along with the PayPal payment saying that he had already invested a lot of money into this website and he had not seen the return he was expecting. And I can see that. I explained a lot of stuff to him about promotion and marketing his site, and he didn't listen to anything I said. He had the mentality that if you build it, they will come. And that's what we did. He paid me to build a website, and he thought that that's all he had to do and then sit back and collect money as people bought stuff from him. And of course, that's not the way it works. So I don't know what his plans are for the future, but I'm happy because I finally got the money that I've been waiting for a couple of years, and I'm going to move on. Now, before I get into the meat of this episode, as always, I want to share a resource for the week. And this week's resource is Evernote. Now, if you're not familiar with Evernote, it is a wonderful note-taking application that syncs across all your devices. I have it installed on my iPhone, on my iPad, on my Mac, and I use it to keep track of everything. All my notes for these podcasts are all kept in Evernote. Anytime I think of a new topic, no matter where I am, if I think of a topic and say, hey, that would make a great podcast episode, I immediately launch Evernote and write it down there so I don't forget. I also keep track of all websites, tutorials, interesting reads, anything that I might want to get back to or look at in a future date, I keep track of it there. This is especially useful for just-in-time learning. And if you want to know more about that, you can listen to episode 8 of the podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 8, where I talk about just-in-time learning. And that's when you come across something really interesting that you would want to learn, but really you have no use for it right now. No reason to learn it right now. But maybe someday you might need to know that. So in cases like that, where I find something, like maybe it's a Photoshop tutorial for something really cool, but I don't really have a use for it, I'll save it into Evernote and I'll tag it with whatever it is. Like maybe it's how to make something look like it's on fire in Photoshop and they got this really excellent tutorial. Well, I don't have a job that calls for that sort of thing now, but I'll save it in Evernote and I'll tag it as fire, as typography, as Photoshop tutorial, as whatever tags I think are appropriate for it. And then later in the future, if I ever come across a job and I need to make maybe the heading of some poster look like it's burning, I can just go to Evernote, type in whatever tags, fire, text, Photoshop, and lo and behold, there's the tutorial I need. Now, there is so much more this application can do, from saving business cards for your contact information to copying receipts. Some people keep all their tax information in Evernote. I don't go that far, but I know some people that do, and they swear by it. So it is so robust that you can do so much with it. And there is a free version And I'm not really sure how much it allows you, what sort of storage space, but I do pay for the premium and I think it's well worth the price. And I don't think I could run my business or my day-to-day life without relying on Evernote. So if it's something you're interested in giving a try, you can visit evernote.com. I am not an affiliate with them. I don't get any commission or kickback for referring it. It's just an application that I use almost on a daily basis. And I think it's something that if you're not already using it, you should definitely look into. And now, the benefits of a home-based graphic design business. Now, what's funny about this topic, in compared to last week's topic of the dangers, or the quote-unquote dangers, of running a home-based graphic design business, is that a lot of the topics I covered last week also apply this week. It just depends on how you look at them. Like last week, I mentioned the dangers of having your fridge or your pantry nearby and how easy it is to just go grab a couple of cookies or grab some junk food whenever you're hungry and you want a quick snack. Well, I covered that under dangers, but I can also cover that under benefits, because if you decide to go to your fridge and grab a bowl of grapes or slice up a carrot or maybe just grab a banana off the counter, something healthy, then it flips over and becomes a benefit. And there are a bunch of things from last week's episode that I'm going to talk about this week, and how, depending on how you view them or how you use them or how you approach them, they switch from becoming a danger to becoming a benefit for your business. Now, I'm going to divide this episode into 4 sections. I'm going to talk about business benefits, the home benefits, family benefits, and mental benefits of working from home. Now, there are so many benefits to having a home-based graphic design business, many more than I'll be able to cover in this podcast episode. And if you're already running a home-based business, I'm sure you'll agree with many of the topics I'm going to cover here. But let's start with just the business benefits. One of the biggest things that I noticed when I started my own business was the ability to choose my own clients. I got to choose who I would work for. When I was working at the print shop, I didn't have a say. Management would take orders and they would assign them every morning. They would grab all the jobs that had come in from the previous day and they would assign them to one of the designers in our department. Now, sometimes they would give you a job based on your ability and knowledge. Like I know at the time I was much better in Photoshop than some of the other designers. So if a project came in that heavily needed Photoshop, chances are I would get that job. But it wasn't always a fun job. It was just that I was the best suited designer to work on it. And I didn't really have a say in what clients I worked on. Now, I did have certain clients that were recurring clients and that I would always get them, but it was just by random chance that I was the first designer that worked on their job when they came to the printing company. And then from that day forth, all their jobs would automatically come to me. But when I started my own, I had the ability to turn people down. Now, I talked about that in a previous episode, but the benefit is you don't have to work with people that you don't want to, or you don't have to take on jobs that you don't want to. Not to mention that it's a different type of clientele that will come to a home-based graphic designer or hire a designer than people that would come to the printing company to get something designed. Because while I was working there, people weren't really coming there to get stuff designed. They were coming there to get stuff printed. And it was just a benefit to them that we had an on-site design studio that would handle their jobs. But most of them were just looking for the cheapest price to get something done and get product in hand. Once I started my home-based business, I realized that the people coming to me were not coming to me because they needed something printed. They came to me now because they needed something designed. And they were willing to pay extra to have a qualified designer work on it. Not that I wasn't qualified before, but it was just the whole mentality of the thing. Again, when people were going to the print shop, they were going there mainly because they wanted stuff printed. So to them, even though we were working on the jobs, they didn't even know, some clients didn't even know we were graphic designers. They just thought we were people working on computers that would lay out their job. They didn't realize we were actually graphic designers. So it's a big mentality and a big improvement of clients when you start your own business. And the same can be said whether you're working from home or if you have a studio somewhere. But just you'll notice that you'll get a higher grade of clients coming to you for your services. Now, another huge benefit from working from home is that you don't have anybody watching over your shoulder. I remember working at the printing shop and sometimes just sitting back, I'd sit back in my chair and I'd think about a job, just try to imagine in my head what I want to do. And then all of a sudden my boss would walk by and question whether I had any work to do. And of course I would tell them what I was up to, but their whole mentality is that they're paying you and I was being paid by the hour. So for me to be sitting in my chair just staring at the ceiling as I was mentally envisioning what I wanted to do worked for me, but it didn't work for my bosses. And sometimes it was stressful having these people watching over you. So that was another big benefit of working from home, is that you don't have bosses. You are the boss. Nobody is there to tell you what to do. Nobody is there to tell you to get back to work, or that you're wasting time or you're wasting money. I mean, if you are wasting time and you are wasting money, it's your own time and it's your own money. So you can do that if you want. So that was another huge benefit I noticed when I started my business. Now, another business benefit of working from home is just your work hours and the amount of money you can make. Now, I mentioned that when I was at the print shop, I was paid by the hour. And that was great. I was making a really good salary. As far as graphic designers went, I had a very respectable paycheck. I had very good bosses who knew what I was worth and were willing to compensate me for it. So I couldn't complain about the money they were paying me. But the truth of the matter is, when I left there and I started my own business and I started charging my own rates, because you got to remember, when you're working for somebody else, they are charging the high rates to the clients, but they're just paying you a salary. But when I started working from home, I did the calculations and it ended up that I only needed to work 12 billable hours per week to pull in the same amount of money that I was pulling in at the printing company. Now I'm talking take-home pay. Once the government got their hands on my pay and took whatever deductions they needed to take, the amount of money I took home at the end of the week, I only had to put in 12 hours, which is less than 3 hours of billable work per day in order to pull in the same amount of money. Now, if you're not already working from home, you may be thinking, well, that's incredible. If I put in a 40-hour work week, I'm just going to be racking in the dough. But the truth of the matter is, you can't do 40 billable hours per week, or you can, but you're going to put in many, many more hours than that. Because there's a lot of time you spend in front of your computer doing stuff that you are not actually billing for. Whether it's learning how to do stuff, upgrading software, reading through your emails, or whatever the case may be. It is not unheard of to spend a full 8-hour day in front of your computer and at the end of it only have maybe 1 or 2 billable hours. But when you're working from home, everything balances out. There might be days where you only have 1 or 2 billable hours, but there might be other days where you'll have 5 or 6 or maybe even 7 billable hours, depending on what you're working on. But that was a huge eye-opener for me when I calculated and I realized that I only had to bill for 12 hours out of the week in order to make the same amount of money that I was making previously. And that also gave me the freedom to take time to work on my own things if I wanted to work on my own marketing, because I knew that when I was doing that, I wasn't making any money. But if I had already put in 3 or 4 hours that day on client work, then in my eyes, I was justified to take a few hours to work on my own things. So that alone is a huge benefit of running your own home-based graphic design business, is just the hours and the money. And speaking of hours, this also means that you get to control the hours you're working. Now, I have a policy because of my family that I usually work 9 to 5. After 5 o'clock, I rarely get back to work unless it's much later. Maybe sometimes when I'm sitting down with my wife watching something on TV, she has a habit of falling asleep around 9:30, 10 o'clock. And if I had a job in mind, I might get up, come back to the computer and put in an hour or two after she's asleep. But usually after supper time, I will rarely sit down to do work because that's my family time. And just like in the morning, I wait till the kids are gone to school, my wife is gone, then I get ready, have my breakfast, and I'll sit down on my computer around 9 o'clock. But because I'm working for myself, I'm not a slave to a punch clock or anything. If I decide that I don't feel like working at 9 and I want to go in at 9:30 or even 10 or 11, I have that prerogative. Yes, it means cutting into my work hours, but if I only have to do 12 billable hours a week in order to get paid the same amount that I would for a 40-hour salaried job, the leeway is there to take a little bit of time off or come into work a little bit later. I like to watch SportsCenter in the morning as I'm eating my breakfast. I usually tape it in the middle of the night, and every morning I'll watch the highlights to see what happened the previous day in the sports world. And if while I'm watching, I'll usually fast forward through some of the sports that I'm not interested in. But if it happens to be an episode that I'm watching more of it than some other episodes, and it ends up going a little bit long and I watch it past 9 o'clock, it's not a big deal. When it's done, I just stop it and then I come in and sit down at whatever time it happens to be. So that is a huge benefit, just your working hours. Now, another huge benefit from working from home is all the write-offs that you can do and just the low overhead you have. Now, I talked a lot about this in episode 18 of the podcast with tax deductions for home-based graphic designers. And you can listen to that one at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 18. So I'm not going to go over all the write-offs and tax exemptions and everything, but working from home, as opposed to working in a design studio, even if you own or you're renting a place to go design, working from home has some huge tax benefits. Everything from being able to claim part of your mortgage, your electricity, your internet, to even possibly claiming your Netflix subscription, depending on how you use it. Now, something else is my vehicle. I drive a GMC Yukon XL. It is a big truck and it is expensive on gas. The only reason I have it is because we have a camper, a 30-foot travel trailer, and I need the truck to pull it. Now, it would break the bank if I had to drive it every single day, but because I work from home and there are days where I don't have to go out for anything, I've gone weeks at a time where my truck has never left the driveway. In the evening, my wife is home and we can use the family car. But just over time, that has been a huge benefit for me, saving on the gas that I spend for traveling because I don't have to. So those are some of the business benefits. And as I mentioned earlier, there are hundreds of benefits, and I'm not going to be able to cover everything, but those are some of the business benefits that I wanted to talk about for people who run their own home-based graphic design business. Now, the next section I want to cover is the home benefits. Now, home benefits are things that are kind of outside your business, but because you're working from home, are a benefit to you and to your family and such. And that's stuff like meals. I mentioned earlier how when you're working from home, depending on how you view your fridge and your pantry, if you look at it and make yourself some healthy meals, it can really benefit you. But beyond the meals, just working from home gives you a lot of freedom that you don't have if you're working somewhere else. I've got a beautiful deck in our backyard, which is surrounded by trees on all sides, so I don't see my neighbors in the summer when all the leaves are out. And it is beautiful for me to just go sit out there and have my lunch, as opposed to sitting in some cafeteria or lunchroom in an office building. I love that I can just make myself a lunch, go sit out there, listen to the birds, and relax in between doing work. Now, another thing, and I covered this last week under the dangers, is the television. Now, I mentioned last week how you have to have a lot of discipline not to be drawn in. And I know I'm a TV-aholic. I love watching TV. My wife says I watch way too many television shows. So I have to have a strong will not to go turn on the TV when I should be working. But there's nothing wrong with turning on the TV while I'm having lunch. I usually break for about an hour every day for lunch when I think about it. Some days when I'm on a roll, I'll just blow right through lunch and completely forget about it until my wife gets home at dinner time. But the days that I do take lunch, it's not unheard for me to turn on the TV, watch an episode of something that I recorded while I'm eating, and then get back to work. It's a way for me to unwind, whether I turn on Netflix or maybe watch an episode of The Flash or Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever program happens to be on my DVR. It takes my mind off the designing, the clients, and all the work aspect of my day. And it is a way for me to relax. Now, I mentioned meals earlier, but another benefit of working from home is not just your own meals, but you get to cover meals for the family. Today at lunch, I turned on the TV, started an episode of Mythbusters I had on the DVR, which is something that you can kind of listen to and don't have to pay attention to too much. And while it was playing, I was in the kitchen chopping stuff up and getting stuff ready, and I threw all the ingredients for a chili in the slow cooker and then turned it on. So later, when my wife gets home from work, she'll smell the chili cooking and know that she has a nice supper to come home to. Now, that's definitely something I couldn't do if I was working somewhere else. Yes, you can throw the stuff in the slow cooker in the morning, but then you're doing it while you're rushed and everything, where I didn't feel rushed. I was chopping things and cooking up a few little pieces as I was watching Mythbusters and eating my lunch at the same time. Now, there are other days where I might decide to finish at 4 o'clock or 4:30 and go get supper started. Or maybe there's a meal that needs to go in the oven and cook for an hour or so. Well, I could set myself a reminder and go heat up the oven around 3:30 and get it ready. And at 4 o'clock, throw something in the oven so that it'll be ready when the family is ready to sit down at the table. So being able to prepare meals, in my opinion, is a huge benefit to working from home. Now, along the same line are chores. My wife normally takes care of the laundry, But sometimes before work, she'll throw a load in and she'll just tell me, Mark, whenever this load is done, do you mind throwing it in the dryer? I'm already here, so why not? Sometimes I forget, but if I don't forget, I'll go throw that in the dryer for her. Or sometimes there's other chores. And being at home, you have that flexibility. There have been days where I've looked outside and said, they're calling for rain tonight and my lawn really needs to be mowed. And I don't have any job right now that has a tight deadline. Why don't I take an hour, go out, mow the lawn, get that done. I'll come back and see if there's anything pressing that I have to do. If not, I'll just tackle it tomorrow. Or worst case, I'll put in an hour tonight because I have that flexibility. I put up a new wall in our basement last week and I was mudding the drywall. And I put one coat in the night before, but then the next day, probably around 10 o'clock in the morning, I had just finished one job for a client and I was about to start the other. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to take 15 minutes, go down, put another coat of mud on the drywall. And I did that. It took me about 10, 15 minutes, put another coat of mud on the drywall. And as it was drying, I came back and I got back to work. So little chores like that you can do throughout the day that don't take a lot of time away from your work and don't interfere with things can really, really benefit your family and yourself. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in this section of home benefits is just sick days. Think about it. If you're working for an agency and you wake up in the morning and you don't feel right, you're feeling a little nauseous, maybe under the weather, or whatever the case may be, you're not going to go into work and possibly infect everybody around there. You're going to call in sick. And yeah, you might have some sort of vacation day or sick pay or whatever, and you're going to stay home. But one of the benefits of working from home is I can still put in some work if I want to. Say I feel great, but I have some sort of stomach bug, which means I'm running to the bathroom every 30, 40 minutes. Well, there's nothing stopping me from working in between all of that. There have been many days where I've put in a few hours of work during the day that I know if I was working at an agency or if I was still working at the print shop, I would have lost that day. So in my eyes, that's a huge benefit of working from home. Now, the next section that I want to cover is family benefits. Now, if you have kids, working from home can be both a huge time saver, a huge money saver, and so much more. When I was working at the print shop, both of my kids were in grade school. And at the end of the school day, they would go to the daycare that was situated in the school, or actually it was right next door to the school. They would go to the daycare, and then I would pick them up on my way home from work. And we paid, I forget how much we paid, but it was quite a bit of money for the two kids on a daily basis. Now, when I decided to quit there and start my own business at home, we immediately notified the daycare that the kids would no longer be going there, and they started taking the bus home after school. So right there, we ended up saving a ton of money, and my kids didn't have to stay at the daycare. They got to come home and enjoy their friends in the neighborhood or whatever the case. Now, yes, for a time, it did interfere with my work because the bus would drop them off at 3 o'clock and I had to make sure they had their snacks and that everything was taken care of. But it didn't take long for my kids to realize that dad's working and we have to let him be as we do some other stuff. Now, it was a little bit tougher during the summer months when they were home. But again, they knew that if I was sitting down at the computer, chances are I was working and they had to take care of themselves. Now, I had to take breaks many times throughout the day. Go check up on them or just see what they're up to or maybe give them ideas on something they can do. But that's all stuff that wouldn't be possible if I wasn't working from home. During the summer months, we used to spend a fortune on daycare with 2 kids because they needed to be taken care of for the entire day. And I remember being at home here and having my 6-year-old daughter come into my office and tell me that her older brother was in the middle of playing something and she didn't want to do that and asked me if I wanted to go maybe kick a soccer ball around or do something. And looking at my work and realizing that I don't have a deadline looming right now, I can afford to take some time off. So sure, I went outside with her and I built some great memories that I would never have if I wasn't working from home. I got to spend some real quality time with both my son and my daughter during their times home when I would step away from the computer and do something just me and them. So that is a huge, huge benefit in my eyes of working from home. The other thing is vacations. I don't have to ask for vacation. I don't have to worry about seniority and is somebody else already off so I can't take it off. When you're working for yourself, if you want to take a day off, you just take a day off and your clients will have to live with it. I make sure to let my clients know in advance if I'm taking a week or whatever. And if something comes up during that week, it's not my problem. I'm on vacation. And I have the freedom of taking vacation whenever I want. Now, yes, there is a drawback to vacations when you're working from home, is the fact that while you're on vacation, you're not making any money. But hopefully you think about that sort of thing and you have enough money in your bank saved up so that a vacation won't put you in the red. But not having to worry about whether or not you can get the time off is great. And that also applies for appointments. Whenever my kids had an eye appointment or a dentist appointment and they would say, well, what would be a good time? I can honestly say, whatever time you want to give me is great because I don't have to worry about taking time off from work. If the earliest opening for a doctor's appointment is at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, well, I'll take my kids at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday and I don't have to ask permission from anybody. Same thing with my appointments. I can easily book appointments months, years in advance because I know whatever day it is, I'll be able to make it. And I know some employers are really, really great at allowing you to take time off for appointments. But if you have your appointments and a couple of kids with different appointments and stuff, it can quickly come to the point where your employer thinks you're abusing the privilege. And it's not just appointments. My kids were in sports and my daughter was on a traveling soccer team. And there were some evenings she'd be playing out of town, and the only way to make it to the soccer field on time was for us to leave at 4 o'clock. Well, if I was working a 9-to-5 job, I would either have to cut into my vacation time, save up some hours, or just take a pay cut in order to leave on time to make the soccer game. But working from home, it didn't make a difference. If I had to leave at 4, I just left at 4. And a final family benefit of working from home is if you do want to have pets, working from home is great. We have 2 dogs and a cat. At one point, we had 3 dogs, and we didn't have to worry about them being alone all day while we were at the office. When I take a break for lunch, I can put the dogs out. There's some days, if it's really nice, I'll take the dogs for a walk during lunch, or just take them in the backyard and play frisbee with them or whatever the case. And I know they could handle being alone all day long, but they benefit from me being home just as much as I benefit for being around them. So that's family benefits. And the last piece I want to cover is mental benefits. And that's just the satisfaction, the feeling proud moment that you are your own business owner. You're an entrepreneur. You ventured out on your own and you're succeeding. It's being proud of the work you're producing and knowing that you're doing it for yourself and that it's promoting you and not some agency or some business. Because I know when I worked at the print shop, I might do some beautiful design. But if anybody asked my client where they had it done, the client might say that I was the one that did it, but chances are they would say, well, I had it done at this printing company, and my name would be left out of it. But now, whenever a client talks about my work, they talk about me. So there's that sort of satisfaction. And that all falls under mental benefits. Now, the other thing, again, I talked about it last week, is the fact that you could get lazy. And that was one of the dangers of working from home, is just the laziness. And when you're isolated and nobody around you to hold you accountable, well, sometimes one of the mental benefits is if you do feel lazy, you don't have to work. You're not forced to work. You can take that time off. Now, as long as you don't overindulge and do it on a regular basis where it starts hurting your business, there's nothing wrong from time to time. If you have a day that just, I don't feel like working, just don't work. It's okay to be lazy. I remember some days years ago when I used to be heavily into World of Warcraft. It's a video game. Now, these were days near the start of my business, and sometimes I didn't have a whole lot of work to do. So in between jobs, I would work on my own stuff, my own marketing material. But if I didn't really feel like doing that at the time, I would just launch World of Warcraft and play for maybe an hour or 2 before getting back to work. And you know what? It didn't hurt my business. I was still making more money than I was making at the printing shop. My clientele kept growing. My income got higher and higher. And I have great memories of those days where I just decided to be lazy and play a video game instead of working. Now, again, not something I would do on a regular basis, and it's been a long time since I played a video game during working hours. But even if I decided to do it tomorrow, I wouldn't feel guilty about it. Now, the last benefit I want to talk about is probably one of my favorite benefits of working from home, and that's my wardrobe. I can wear whatever I want at work. I'm a t-shirt and jeans kind of guy. That's what I'm comfortable in, and that's what I wear 95% of the time. If I was working somewhere else, I'd probably have to have nicer clothes, stuff that you have to iron on a regular basis, maybe even wear ties, which to some people that's okay, but I don't like that sort of thing. As I said, I'm t-shirts and jeans, and that's what I wear. And because I work from home, I don't even have to go that far. Most mornings when I get up, I'm still in my bathrobe when everybody leaves the house. As I said, I'll sit down, have breakfast, watch SportsCenter, and then I'll come to work still in my bathrobe. And maybe I'll work till lunchtime or late morning before I finally get up and decide to go have a shower and get dressed. And I have that benefit. Just like shaving. I'm not a fan of shaving. I have black hair, or at least it used to be black. Now it's kind of going gray, but I should shave on a daily basis. But I don't. Because I don't need to. I'm not going anywhere. I do shave when I leave the house, but there's some times where I'll go 2 or 3 days where I don't leave the house. So what's the point of shaving? Every once in a while, my wife will make some sort of comment and question whether I'm trying to grow a beard or something. But no, it's just, I don't know, call it lazy or whatever. I just don't enjoy shaving. And since I've been working from home, that is one of the things that I enjoy is I can get up in the morning, have a shower, look in the mirror, see the scruff on my chin, and just say, maybe I'll shave tomorrow. And then get to work. And that might be one of my favorite benefits of working from home. Well, that's the end of the stuff I really wanted to talk about. As I mentioned earlier, there are hundreds and hundreds of perks and benefits of working from home, of running your own home-based graphic design business. And I can make a whole series of podcast episodes about them. But I just wanted to do something to kind of flip around what I talked about last week about the dangers of working from home. Now, I would love to find out what your benefits, what's the biggest thing that you take out of working from home, whether it's spending time with your kids when they're at home, being able to eat whatever you want. Maybe it's taking time off every day to watch a TV show at a certain hour, or whatever the case may be. I would love for you to head on over to resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 24 and leave a comment on the show notes page there and let me know, what are your biggest benefits from working from home? Now, I don't have a question of the week again this week, but if there's anything you would like to ask me and have me answer on the podcast, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/feedback and send me your question and I'll answer it on a future episode. Now, you can reach me at any time by emailing me at feedback@resourcefuldesigner.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at resourcefuld and on my Facebook page at facebook.com/resourcefuldesigner. Now, in next week's episode, I'm going to be talking about trying to convince your client that you're right and they're not. Now, before I go, I want to remind you of this week's resource, which is Evernote. In my opinion, it's the best application for taking notes, keeping track of things, and just organization. And if you're interested in knowing more, visit evernote.com. So that's it for me in this episode. I hope you're just rocking that latest design project you're working on. And I can't wait to share more with you in next week's episode. I'm Mark Decote, reminding you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer Podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.